Welcome back to Retirement Money. Thanks for joining. Again, I'm your host, Rodney Peters, from our entire Retirement Money team. Today, we are covering an article that gets back into withdrawal strategies, or kind of high-level withdrawal structure. And the reason for this show is for our listeners to feel more confident about getting in and through retirement. So, if you may have noticed, before, we stated that our mission is to help 1 million individuals, pre-retirees, do just that. Be more confident before retirement. Now, this article gets into what they call the worst ways to withdraw from the retirement account. And I can't say that we completely agree with each piece of that. And so the reason that we made this show is to basically just say, when you're online and you are searching on tactics or strategies or just retirement facts themselves, make sure not to just read one thing one time and then presume that is the right fit for you. The whole purpose there is, hey, the internet can be wonderful. We can find out a lot of facts, a lot of information very, very quickly. However, if you're looking to actually implement some of those for you, you probably want to make sure or fact check what's going on, and also not just take a general stance, identify what's the best bet for you. So that's the reason for this show specifically. Again, the article was from smartasset.com. Not that they had anything in there that was necessarily wrong. It just wasn't overly practical. And so when we think about practicality and also setting up individuals for success, there has to be an understanding of how long is somebody really going to work? How long can they put off not touching their retirement accounts? Right? So if you want to work until your late 70s and not touch your IRA or 401k until you're 80 or something like that, chances are you're probably not going to run out of money as long as you've been saving along the way. Now, the article didn't go that crazy, but that's just an example of using, let's just say, financial planning stats and some of the strategies, but also making sure that it's practical for individuals. Okay. Additionally, when we're mentioning we want to help 1 million individuals or pre-retirees retire with more confidence, that could be as simple as maybe spot checking some of the information that you've seen previously online, or allowing you just to have more options that are floating through. It could be pretty difficult to actually bring on 1 million clients. That structure itself is pretty challenging. It's more so education, empowerment, and making sure that you know of your options, which I find, I guess it's not funny, but I find it interesting. A lot of times when I'm having one-on-one conversations, I hear, well, I didn't know about that, or I haven't heard that before. And it's not to say that one specific plan or strategy was the right fit for that individual, but it's just simply that as you are getting through your working years and now you're ready to retire, a lot of the options that are out there, maybe you just haven't been plugged into before. So today I'm gonna bring in two different studies. One is from Northwestern Mutual that was done in 2020, and then one from Vanguard. And if you haven't heard of Vanguard before, they're one of the largest institutions, financial services here in America. Now, specifically, Northwestern Mutual in 2020 identified that 71% of the individuals that they surveyed wish that they would have, let's just say, more confidence or more structure around their financial planning. However, only 29% of those individuals actually use an outside financial service professional. Okay, so a bit of a missing target there, with the amount that wish that their overall planning was better and the amount that are actually engaging with a professional. Now with Vanguard, what they did is they added numbers, values, dollar values to the overall, benefit of an advisor. And specifically, what they outlined was for an individual who had $500,000 over a span of 25 years, that account value while working with an advisor of some sort, right, grew to north of $3.5 million over 25 years. Now compare that to their same study, same 25 years, same $500,000 to start with. Individuals not engaging with a professional, a financial professional, their account grew to like $1.68 million, or let's just say a little bit less than 2 million. So that in itself, maybe just those two numbers, and again, always do your fact check there. The articles are at the bottom of the show. Read through it, but the essence there very well could mean what you thought was expensive as far as engaging with an advisor and having your questions thoughtfully reviewed and identifying the exact strategy for you. Maybe that's not expensive. Maybe it's expensive to not go through that process and not hear what those options are. So as you can see, it was more than $1 million difference between the individuals utilizing a professional and those who were not seeking outside guidance, okay? Now, for the article itself, it gets into what they call the 4 worst withdrawal strategies in retirement. More simply said, how to not pay yourself in retirement. So again, we didn't specifically agree with these 4 steps, and it's mostly not that they weren't accurate in the individual essence, but they weren't practical, and especially when you put them all together, it became more and more impractical. So just bear with me. We'll get into what those 4 are, what those 4 withdrawal strategies are, and you'll start understanding why I'm saying it's not necessarily practical for everyone. So number 1, they identified that you should not start with your IRA or 401k withdrawals first in retirement, and instead you should start with your brokerage account or your investment structure that is attached to the capital gains tax structure as opposed to the income tax structure, okay? They noted that it would allow your retirement accounts, just think IRA, 403b, 401k, TSP, what have you. They noted that it would allow those accounts to continue to grow through compound interest, which is accurate. It is just as accurate to say that the brokerage account would have the same opportunity for that compound interest. Now, because it is a little bit of a different tax structure, in the brokerage account, when you do have dividends or interest, those are taxable in that year. But when you look at the larger picture, unless you have a very sizable, $1 million, multiple $1 million brokerage account, the taxes that you would pay on that are minimal, okay? So that was step 1. Step 2 that they identified was to not do, basically, was to start your Social Security at age 62, okay? So for most, that is the first time that you can turn on your Social Security. And again, in itself, that's not necessarily bad advice, but they go on to say that you should work until your full retirement age, okay? Or excuse me, what they actually said, you should work until age 70, which is how you maximize Social Security, waiting until age 70. Again, a true fact, okay? However, a lot of individuals, they don't want to work till age 70. Some individuals can't. Maybe health reasons, maybe their employer, is releasing them before age 70, okay? And so, although starting at age 62 would reduce your overall Social Security benefit, okay? Waiting till age 70 for a lot of individuals isn't that much more practical. Now, they did mention that it is wise to check in with your advisor, not to just, take that strategy and run with it. So I'm glad to hear that they added that little footnote, if you will, because again, one size does not fit all. Number 3 was to not touch your IRA, your 401k, TSP. Just think of your retirement accounts until age 72, which is your required minimum distribution at this point. It definitely would allow for your retirement accounts to potentially grow for a few years, depending on when you retire. It would also help for the longevity, obviously if you're not pulling money out of the account. However, again, the practicality of not touching your 401k or your IRA until age 72, it's not going to happen a lot of the times. And so what we see, and there are plenty of different white papers and everything like that, because overall individuals who were working were guided to do most of their savings in a 401k. That's where majority of the funds are, okay? And so if you retire at 65 or 66, they're kind of telling you to wait 5, 6, 7 years before you access where most of your retirement savings is. Again, just not super practical. And number 4, what they identified is to wait as long as possible to withdraw from your Roth IRA, okay? The whole essence there is, again, to allow your Roth IRA to compound interest as the years go by. And if you follow all of the rules, it's tax-free income for you later in retirement. Again, not a bad strategy, but we like to think of things a little bit more dynamic. Just a blanket statement of waiting on your Roth IRA as the last account ever to touch limits some of the tactical strategies that you could use. So here's an example. Let's say you're retired and maybe you have Social Security, you have an IRA and a Roth IRA. So one strategy that you could utilize, just based off of how the tax structure is Social Security is going to fill up a certain portion of your income. Your IRA, because you're going to have to take funds out of the IRA at some point because of RMDs, or required minimum distributions. So that's going to happen anyways. So potentially what you do is you take out the amount to satisfy your RMD, and then maybe, just maybe, you use some of the Roth money, because it's tax-free as long as you follow the rules again, and you use those 3 components to reduce your overall tax bill as the years go by, okay? So again, the article had a few, I would say, accurate statements, but the practicality of putting them all together just seems overly difficult. Additionally, I mentioned about the compound interest that can work in your brokerage account or your non-IRA. Same thing for your IRA and your Roth IRA. Waiting till, let's just say, age 70 to work for a lot of individuals these days, that's a hard pill to swallow. And so what we want all of our listeners to be able to be empowered with is how they want to see their retirement going, how to get into making some of those decisions, and then how to feel comfortable and confident about the decisions that they made last year or 10 plus years ago while in retirement. Okay, lastly, we're going to end with another client story. Because we started talking about Social Security, we were talking about withdrawal strategies, I'm going to introduce to you Adam and Eve. Okay, they are in their mid to later 60s, both retired. Adam has Social Security, and let's say that his Social Security per month is $3,000. Eve has a state pension, so majority of her income in retirement is through that state pension, again at $3,000 a month. Between the two of them, savings between deferred comp, and also 401k and some other Roth funds and things like that. A little bit less than $1 million altogether. So they have about a little bit less than $1 million of investments, and then they have $6,000 per month of guaranteed income split between Social Security and a pension. So the reason that they were cautious about potential reduction of income in retirement is because if, let's just say Adam, for an example, passes away, Eve would continue to receive her $3,000 per month state pension, but she's not going to get the lion's share of Adam's Social Security, okay? So let's walk this through. If Adam were to pass away, Eve continues to receive her $3,000 a month from the pension, but instead of receiving all of the Social Security, she's only going to receive basically a third of that, okay? And that is because she has a state pension. And what that's called is a windfall, or let's just more specifically for our listeners, is a reduction of her income. So because her pension is $3,000, what they're going to do is Social Security, they're going to look at that pension. They're then going to take 2/3 of her pension. So 2/3 is $2,000, and they're going to reduce the survivorship Social Security by that $2,000. So what that means when you do the math, Eve is going to receive $1,000 from the Social Security survivorship from her late husband in this example. So previously, they both brought in $3,000 a month, so obviously that's $6,000. Now that Adam passed away, Eve has her $3,000 of the pension and just $1,000 from Social Security, so that's $4,000 a month. And it happens quickly, obviously, when that happens. So their thought was, how do we backfill that $2,000, right? So again, they have about $1 million of assets, and figuring out how to backfill that $2,000, hopefully years and years and decades down the road, but at some point it most likely is going to happen. And so understanding basically their foundation, which is their income today. Secondly, understanding how comfortable they are with having money invested, whether they want to be super aggressive or really conservative, okay? And then next, identifying what their timeline really looks like, okay? Putting all of those together allowed us to create a structure to backfill that $2,000, okay? Now, some of it was through a guaranteed income flow, but we used the least amount of assets in order to fulfill about $1,000. So about half of what they needed in this scenario. And the other portion of the investments will fill in the other $1,000 a month. So as I said before, there's not just one size fits all. You have to become a little bit more tactical. You have to understand what all of your options are. And also, hats off to Adam and Eve, they understood prior to even sitting down that there could be a point in time where their guaranteed income was going to be reduced based off of where it was coming. Again, if you enjoyed the show, please make sure you forward this on to friends, family, coworkers. Subscribe so that you can get the updates each week on the new videos. And always below are the articles for what we referenced today in the show, and also a link to join the weekly newsletter. Until next time, enjoy your day.